Good morning, sir. Good morning, classmates. So today, I'm gonna be discuss to you the chapter 4, which is the principles of good practice in assessing learning outcomes. So by the end of this chapter, we are expected to clarify the principles in assessing learning outcomes, explain the phases of outcomes assessment, and also determining the alignment of learning outcomes and assessment tasks, and discuss the various assessment methods, tools, and tasks, including portfolios, and construct a scoring rubric, and also to give sample assessment and tasks for each MI, and to explain at least 3 key features of assessment in the K to 12. And today, I will be discuss to you my topic. It's all about principles of good practice in assessing learning outcomes. So when we say assessing student learning outcomes, this is the form of activities that consist information by guiding students to be more efficient and good to be a writer and be a strong for the future. So this is why teacher gives students and small activities or such a project for individuals to give them task is the part of their trainings. So for example inside the room, ang imo teacher is naghatag ng assessment. So therefore, ang assessment is just a practice to involve and practice your mind. To think para maimo mahi-answer sa inana na paagi, there are positive outcomes because I do believe in the saying, kung may itinanim, may aanihin. So it means, ang inyong success ay nakadepende sa kung paano mo ito ipapanalo. And there are 13 principles of good practice in assessing learning outcomes. And the first is we have the assessment of student learning starts with the institution's vision, mission, and core values. So sa SDSSU, di ba natin mga mission or vision and core values? So dapat yun siya is clear o easy to understand para ang tanan students makakope sila every time makita nila or madumduman ang vision o mission sa mismong eskwelahan. So this is the only one to guide every students to learn and promote themselves to grow and be strong in every task inside the university. And for the second one, we have assessment works best when the program has clear statement of objectives aligned with the institutional vision, mission, and core values. So, mo-work ang assessment if ang mission o vision mo haom sa mismong gipang-assign sa mga students. So, dapat connected yun siya naman bitaw ang mission o vision, importante sa isa ka eskwelahan to give the students wide na panghuna-huna about sa eskwela or ano use ng ila pag-eskwela. So, therefore, students ma-learn nilang na school na dapat ang value sab nimo, di ba? Ang ato value sa school is makadiyos, makatao, makakalikasan, makabansa. So kung ano man ang atong value sa school, kailangan maapod ng atong buhaton sa atong mga classmates ingana. Kay mapositive man pud ang outcomes ng assessment if the students sundon nila ang mission of vision. And the third one, we have outcome-based assessment focuses on the student activities that will still be relevant after formal schooling concludes. Outcome-based assessment is more relevant after formal schooling nowadays. So, as we face new normal, which is online class, and have a pandemic, it is good to write a sentence and paragraph than verbal ability. It is because writing shows the good abilities of a students to have a great outcomes, because writing is the first thing to learn to have a great and strong mind. And the next is we have assessment requires attention not only to overcomes but also and equally to the activities and experiences that led to the attainment of learning outcomes. It is the important rule for the teachers in the school to assess every student. The outcomes might be useless if ever you weren't give the students an activity to do. We are believing that the experience is the key and the best teacher for us individuals. There are a lot of students who have not get what is the main point of the topic. If you didn't show any example, activities give students a simple own idea. to work on his own way, and he or she might made her own formula on how to learn music. So dili sa tanan students ingon nga bright, kailangan gyud pasagid iba ng mga students na para makasabot kailangan gyud nato sila tagaan ng examples or kaya mga pictures ana para mas mapadali nila masabutan gayon. And let's proceed to the number 5, which is assessment works best when it continues, ongoing, and not episodic. Assessment should be done continuously and shall be cumulative. Students can improve their skills, abilities, and knowledge. And now let us move on to the another principles, which is begin assessment by specifying clearly and exactly what you want to assess. So before you assess, make sure that you are prepared and the assessment is ready. So dapat ready na atong assessment kung ano nato sa atong mga students. So it will be effective and it will be flow accordingly. So dapat alam gayud nimo ang dapat nimo ilaong sa ila para makakat-on ang imong mga learners. And the next is we have the intended learning outcomes. Lesson objective, not content, is the basis of the assessment task for self-assessment. Every lesson is not just for nothing. It is because the main objective of this part is to give the students learning outcomes. Every topic is important. That's why teacher have a copy and printed textbook to make it her guide how to teach students. So they follow the objectives so that students will get the said outcome the school aiming for. And next is we have set your criterion of success or acceptable standard of success. It is against this established standard that you will interpret your assessment result. And make use of varied tools for assessment data gathering and multiple sources of assessment data. And of course, the students who attended classes have their own tools. Even the teacher give the students the said lecture to learn every day. So as we have noticed, teacher assign every student to bring their materials, to buy those materials if it necessary needed for the said activities. Next is we have learners must be given feedback about their performance. For example, in the laboratory, teacher was assigned everyone to use the said laboratory equipment to make them understand how to use such materials so that to the future they have an idea how to use the equipment. We are students doesn't learn by just explaining. We are students doesn't learn by just explaining. Sometimes we need to see and experience how to do it work. In the data, teacher surveys the attitude and the work of her students, if who is working and who is the fast learner. It was very important to all teachers to gather data to level the intelligence of her students. Next principles we have assessment should be on real world application and not on out of context drills. So ang mga assessment na ato gihatag sa mga students ay dapat mahi-apply sab nila sa mga pang-adlaw-adlaw na kinabuhi. So let's make sure na may makatunan gyud sila na madala nila kini bisan asa bisan hain sila mokadto. So dili ra unta hangtod sa eskwelahan or sa mga task ang ilang knowledge ug understanding kung dili mai-apply sab nila kini in a real world. And now let us move on to the number 12, which is the emphasis on the assessment of higher order thinking. Our teaching will base on the level of the students. So for example, if your students is grade 1, so therefore your learning materials will be fit in the said level. So kung grade 1 ang imong ginatudloan, kailangan ang imong mga material is pang grade 1 ra gayud. Usually, grade 1 needs to write and read every words to determine the things and objects that they saw around them. And then the last is provide opportunities. And every last topic, students need to examine. So di ba nakabantay mo pag mahumanata sa tanan lesson, the teacher will be examined, no? The teacher given exams for the last quarter in the first and the second SEM. And now let us move on to another topic, which is the sample of supporting student activities. So for the student learning outcomes number 1, we have supporting student activities. Number 1 is practice differentiating source, material, and one's opinion. Second is we have reading articles and formulating an original paragraph from quotes, paraphrases, and summaries. And writing of essays to develop the topic. And integrating bibliographic entries in appropriate format. And for the student learning outcomes number 2, we have forming opinion about the topic, researching and writing about a variety of perspectives, adapting style to the identified audience, and also employing clear argument in writing. And for the student learning outcome number 3, we have analyzing and evaluating text, writing about a variety of perspectives on single topic, adapting tone and style to address one's audience, reviewing grammar and essay format in readings, and also holding group discussion about various topics. And those are the 3 samples of supporting student activities. And now let us move on to another topic, which is the phases of outcome assessment in the institutional cycle. We have here 11 phases of outcome assessment in the institutional cycle. First is we have institutional mission. Institutional mission, students, faculty, and legislator. For the institution educational goals in guidance concerning the achievement of these goals is, for example, in the DepEd mission, which is to protect and promote of right every Filipino. The equality, equitable culture based on complete basic education where the students learn, image, have friendly, gender sensitive. And for the second phases, we have program goals. Program goals are broad statement of kinds of learning. We hope students learn, achieve the described learning outcomes and concepts. What you want students to learn in general terms, for example, clear communication and problem-solving skills. And for the next phases, we have subject objectives. So when we say subject objectives, it is a brief statement that describe what students will be expected to learn at the end of school year. So for example, this course is designed to prepare you for professional writing experience by the end of course. So we should be able to identify primary, secondary audiences of a text. And let us continue the another phases, which is the desired students' learning outcome. Desired learning outcomes, it is the learning outcomes or statement that desired significant in essential learning that learners have achieved and then reliable demonstrate at the end of the course or program. Or in other words, learning outcomes identify, would know, and be able to do by the end of a course or a program. And now let us move on to another one, which is the diagnostic assessment. So diagnostic assessment, it is a type of assessment, which is examine what students know it can do prior to a learning program being implemented. So assessment of students' skills, knowledge provides which to assess program. So the example of this is the journal or performance task. Another phases is we have deciding on lesson focus. So deciding on lesson focus, it is the first phase of responsibility model is to focus lesson. So this is the time when the teacher is demonstrating, modeling, and sharing her thinking in their students. Maybe brief, they also sharing their thinking maybe 5 to 10 minutes.
Next is we have supporting student activities.
Supporting student activities, students apply principles of logical thinking and persuasive arguments on writing. For instance, framing opinion about the topic, researching and writing about variety of perspectives, adapting style to identify the audience, and implying clear arguments in writing.
Next phases is we have formative assessment outcome.
Formative assessment outcomes, refers to a wide variety methods that teacher use to conduct and process evaluation of students' comprehension learning minutes and academic progress during the lesson, unit, or course. So the example of formative assessment outcomes is, what did we do in class? What did I learn today?
And now let us proceed to the other one, which is the review, reteach.
Then the next is we have review, reteach. Review, reteach, it is examine or assess something formally when the possibility or intention of change of necessary.
And the next phases is we have mastery learning.
Mastery learning is a method of instruction when the focus is on the rule of feedback in learning. Furthermore, mastery learning refers to category of instruction method which establishes level of performance that all students masters before moving on the next unit.
And now let us move on for the last phases, which is summative assessment of outcome.
When we say summative assessment of outcomes, refers to the assessment of participant works that the focus is on the outcomes. So the purpose this contrasts with summative assessment, which summarize participants that aim particular time. The example of summative assessment is essay, report, portfolio, and presentation. And that's all for my report. Thank you for listening and God bless everyone.